Hey, welcome to Chopping It Up with Mike and Donny on Fox Soul. I'm Mike Hill. That is my player partner, the West Side Fly Guy. My co-host, the one, the only, my brother for life, Mr. Donny Harrell. D.
What's up, my player partner, Mike Hill, Thrill Hill? What's going on with you today, baby? How was your
Trying
day?
to, very strong, man. Hey, congratulations. A special day for us all here at Fox Soul.
1 year anniversary, man. We made it through, man. It's a beautiful thing, man, to be on the air 1 year, man, when people count us out, Big Mike.
Absolutely, man. The launch, we had the big launch last year. We've been on the air a little bit longer, but we had the official launch this day last year, and the numbers have been tremendous. So shout out to everybody that works on the Mike and Donny show and all the other shows on Fox Soul, and a special shout out to our man James DeBose, our executive producer, man, who makes things happen for us around here.
Yes, we want to give a shout, like Mike said, we want to give a shout out everybody behind the scenes because they really make this thing tick, Mike, and we're grateful and happy for them. So we giving them much love.
We've learned a lot over the last year, but we get our first life lessons at the crib at home, right? So our parents, they give us these priceless advice that which molds us into the goal-oriented, successful people we are today, right?
Yes, we do.
But then again, some of the lessons you learn from your folks could steer you down the wrong path. Now, I think both of us have had issues with that before. Maybe not with your parents, maybe not with your mom, but it could be a father figure in your life or a motherly figure in your life and might give you some bad advice that may steer you down the wrong path.
Yeah, and a lot of, when you look at your uncles and your cousins that's older than you and you want to be like them, it can steer you down the wrong path, all right, buddy.
Yep. So the question tonight, did our parents teach us what we need to know to be able to function and thrive in society, the right things? And what are some of the things you wish they would have taught you? You ready to make it happen?
Let's go, baby boy.
Let's get into it. We got some great guests. Welcome motivational speaker Pierce Brooks, comedian Just Niche, and urban spinster Sadia Sanders. What's up, y'all?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Donny, what's up?
How y'all doing?
Good.
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Donny, I like it when women like hi.
I love that.
I don't know. That's just
hey, Sadia.
Yeah. I think you gotta be sweet to do that. Like if you ain't like a mean woman if you do like hi.
Yeah, you ain't mean.
Right?
Because we have some mean women on this show, Mike.
No, with attitudes.
Yeah.
With attitudes. Lovely people. We appreciate all our guests, but we had a guest on here the other night. I ain't gonna say her name, but we was talking about where she was from, and boy, I thought she was gonna take the earrings out,
put
her hair back in a ponytail, put the Vaseline on her face.
Yeah, we can help you from that town.
No, like we just playing, we just jokes. Have you watched the show? Boy, hee ha ha. That's what we do. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Y'all having a good time tonight? Y'all having a good day so far?
Yeah.
Great day.
We're in LA. I mean, other than
Exactly, Pierce.
other than
we all in LA? Everybody?
No, I'm in Chicago.
Yeah.
Niche is in Chicago.
Chi-town.
Niche wishes she was in LA right now. I'm pretty sure it's about 15 degrees in Chicago. Yeah.
I'm a little jealous. I heard it's warm. So yeah, I'm a little jealous, but it's okay. I'll be there soon.
So even if you had a place to go, you probably wouldn't go unless you was, what's the kid that used to be on Empire going to Subway sandwiches at 5 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning?
I'm not going to hear
that. I'm sorry. Shout out to him. Hey, we're talking about life. What is the biggest life lesson, Sadia, that your parents taught you?
Definitely responsibility, Mike. Being on time, doing what you say you're going to do. Those are the two biggest things that they've taught me. And I think living in LA, that can be a little difficult because I'm from Chicago originally. Dad's from Chicago, mom's from Atlanta. So you got that Southern Midwest kind of upbringing. But when we came to LA, it was really hard for me to adjust. Because here in LA, a yes is a maybe and a maybe is a no.
I don't get that, Sadia. I don't get that.
You explain to me.
No, explain it.
If someone tells you yes, they're going to do something, they might or they might not here.
Oh, you're talking about the people.
Yeah, the people. Okay. Especially in the entertainment industry, you know how that goes, man. A lot of people just talk about stuff. How tough is that though on that point? Because you learn certain values, and when other people don't have those same values, it can be tough for you to adjust, right?
It's real hard. It's real hard. Super hard. What do you think? What do you think, Jack?
Pierce or Niche?
Niche.
Yeah, it's really hard to adjust. I mean, my mom was very religious, and we grew up Kojic, so it's hard for me to
You grew up
um.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, Church of God in Christ. I'm sorry, that's Super Church. Like Upper Baptist.
Oh,
Okay.
like what? Well, that's a
You know,
new
church three
religion.
times a week. We were, we stayed in church a lot. So when I would get around people who did certain things in church, or wore pants, or just leave church and go drink, and I would be like, "What is wrong with y'all?" But that's just because that was the way I was raised. So it is hard for me. I do be judgmental, and I don't try to be, but it's just in me. So I'm working on that, and that's.
Mm.
Mm,
Well, I don't like
yeah.
people like that, Denise or Saudi. Like, if you tell me something and you don't do it, I ain't dealing with you. Like I'm not
Exactly.
dealing with you. Period.
Exactly. But then
Yeah.
it becomes kind of lonely when you're surrounded by people who were most of my friends are second generation from LA. They weren't born and raised in LA. Like their parents are at least from somewhere else. But
Mm-hmm.
those are the people that I tend to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, that's good because I guess I'm second generation because my mama was here before me. Is that what it is then?
No, if your mother wasn't from here,
Right.
where's your mom from?
Texas.
There you
So
go.
you're first generation.
So
I'm first
you're
generation.
first generation
You're
from
first generation. You being
Well,
here from the
she came here in 1939.
but she brought those Southern values with her.
Got you.
Mm-hmm,
Got you. All right.
mm-hmm. She
And that's
wasn't
how
born
she
and
raised
raised here.
you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Here's what about you?
well, for me, I mean, my parents were. My dad was he was a tough guy, so he really wanted to beat into me, what being a man was, and his version of that. And I think one of the biggest things I learned was that I really didn't agree, and I had to learn that over time. Being I kind of defined what being a man is very different than the way he looked at it. My mom was a hard worker. She works at Kaiser. She's been working there for 35 years. She's an essential worker. So she taught me, pack the lunch pail, do the routine, go to work every single day. My dad lived much more of like a free kind of wild life. So different lessons from the two of them.
You
How,
go on, Mike. Go.
how did that like you said your dad was a tough guy. How did that impact you as far as growing up and masculinity, and what did it lead to toxic masculinity? Did you see any kind of effects that it had on your behavior as you was growing up as a child and even into young adulthood?
For sure. My dad's what they call a vacillator. So I had to kind of read his mood, like what kind of mood is he in now? And the way he would teach a lesson sometimes is by not talking to me, kind of putting me in timeout, saying, don't talk to me for a couple weeks kind of thing. I talked
Weeks.
about it weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
A couple times in my, I had a TEDx speech, and I played basketball growing up, and my dad, if I didn't play well, he'd walk out of the games. And, that used to really just kind of, bum me out. And so I had to do just a lot of work on that. I mean, there's a lot of great things that my father taught me, and he just was, a complex guy, but, certain, those low moments definitely made its impact too.
Wow, that's crazy. My
Yeah,
mama
we gonna
told me
talk.
don't.
Go
My
ahead.
mother told me don't. My biggest thing my mother taught me, Mike, and the panel was that don't be a follower. I ain't never been no follower. You know what I'm saying? She was like, don't follow people. You know what I mean? Mark your own path, and when somebody's going this way, you go that way. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I didn't listen. You know what I mean? But that really stuck with me about as I am now as an adult. But like I never was a follower. You
Do
know.
you think that's a big reason why you're a boss now, that you have never been able to work for anybody, that you've always wanted to be that leader?
Yeah, and you see growing up when people are doing things and that your mother instills in put it in your head about wrong things and this and that. But sometimes I fell into a trap. But a lot of things, I got out of because I wasn't a follower. Like I'm like I ain't doing that, and I don't care what you think about me. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is, and we can fight. You get what I'm saying? So
Right.
it was just I was never a follower. I just wouldn't do what everybody else done. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think so. I think what you asked me is yes. That's why I think yeah.
Those are great life lessons that you all have. I think one of the biggest lessons that my mom gave me that I will always cherish with me, and I teach my kids, is don't just talk about it, but be about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say you want to do something, talk is cheap and all those cliches you want to throw out there. But if you say you want to do something, show me that you want to do it, and I'll help you do it. And definitely you got to help yourself. So you got to put your mind to it. But those are some of the things that we were taught, and all these great life lessons. Go ahead, Donny.
But you know, my mother taught me another thing. This always sticks in my head. She said, "Don't be a woulda, shoulda, coulda nigga." You know what I'm saying? Well, she put that in my head. You know what I mean? So I put that in my kids' head. Don't be a woulda, coulda, shoulda nigga. You know, so that's what she put in my head.
One more thing, if you guys don't mind. So I think it's kind of a generational thing. I'm a millennial, but my parents and a lot of my friends' parents would say you can be anything you want to be, and that's great. It's great for positive kind of encouragement, but there comes a time where that's why there's this kind of analysis paralysis right now, where you don't know what lane to choose, and then you don't really stick and commit to something. So something doesn't work out, then shit, let me change to something else, and then you keep bouncing, and you're kind of a lost soul. So I think that's another thing that I had to learn over time, is that yes, I can be whatever I want to be, but I have to choose and decide and stick with it.
That's important that you brought up, because millennials are like that. They can bounce back. My daughter, who's just turned 21 years old, has had 7 different job descriptions that she wants to be in the last year. She wanted to be in fashion. She wanted to be a model. Then she wanted to do art. And I'm like, wow, it's good that you have all these different things that you want to be. But is it up to the parents, and I'm asking all you guys, to kind of give younger people, or was it up to our parents to give us that kind of direction, even though, we kept an open mind about what we could do?
Hey, Mike, let me just say this one thing. What your daughter is doing, I love that, because she's a dreamer. You know what I mean? And I was a dreamer. And when you dream, when you kill people's dreams, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's over when you stop dreaming, because I got a son like that, so I understand what you're saying. But I love when kids do that, because they're dreaming, they're trying to follow their path. You know what I mean? They're gonna find it one day. That's how I feel.
And here's how I feel about it. And I appreciate, and I say the same thing, because I love that my kids can dream, but I also want them to have some direction. And if you say you're going to do something, it goes back to my first point. So you say you want to get into fashion. Well, what are you doing to get into fashion? Then first thing that you get, the first no, then you want to give up. Right. And that's discouraging. So you got to stick with something and commit to it in order to achieve what you want to achieve.
There are very few childish Gambinos where you can just be a comedian and a singer. Most people, I think, at least the people I love Prince, I love Chappelle, I love Dr. Dre, whatever. They've been doing the same thing for 20 years and they master it. Then they become a mogul and branch out. But they stick with one thing and master that for a long time.
Yeah, you can focus on one main thing and then have branches of other things that can lead off to certain things. What would you say, Niche?
Well, you have to find that. So, I think that it's necessary for you to branch off into a few things, because at this point, I would like my son to find something he's passionate about. That way he can, hone that, rather than doing something, this is what I should be doing, or this is a good job, or this is, our people will appreciate me doing. No, find something that you love to do, and that way you'll be happy doing it. So if you have to do that in your earlier years, I would rather you do that than go to college 4 or 5 years, waste all that money like I did, and end up finding what you want to do later in life in your 30s. So I'm all about them trying and just testing it out, because they're young, and it's like something's gonna click, and then when that clicks, then go ahead, go hard for it. But I'm not against it.
I'm a little older, so I've been in corporate for a long time, and I'm of that generation where it's like, go to college, make your money, get a good job, and just retire from there. And although you might have those dreams and aspirations that you are passionate about, I say, for the younger people, just based on my own experience, find out what you want to do first before you get stuck and you get on that hamster wheel, because now you got an apartment and you got rent and you got a car note and you got, so you start working only to support the lifestyle that you're building versus doing what you really want to do. And it's hard to get out once you start establishing a home and bills and all that kind of stuff. You just want to do what you need to do in order to pay your rent or your house note. But then your passions kind of fall to the wayside and you become kind of angry and bitter. But with the millennials coming into a corporate environment, because they really don't know what they want to do, they do jump around a lot and you can't depend on them.
All good advice.
You get a bad rap.
I gotta take a quick break. All good advice there. So we've been talking about the things that our parents did teach us, but what about the things that they failed to teach us? They kind of hurt us a little bit, or some of the things that they did teach us that like, I wish they wouldn't have said that shit because that ain't really working out for us. We're gonna get into all that coming up and more. We're chopping it up with Mike and Donny on Fox Soul. Stick around. What are some of the things you wish your parents would have taught you on Chopping Up with Mike and Donny? Mike Hill, Donny Harrell, we're talking to Sadia, Niche, and Pierce hanging out with us here tonight. How about relationships? Anybody have that talk where your parents come in and say, tell you about the birds and the bees? No, everybody's saying no.
That's for middle class families, and and rich families. Like, no, in the hood, no. You knew about it. I think you knew about that at 5 years old. You get what I'm saying?
That's why. But that's why Keisha getting pregnant at 12. Shit, this
right. Well, Keisha got pregnant at 12. My mama got pregnant at 15. You know what I mean? So no, when she had a baby at 15, that means she was doing it probably around 13 or 14. You feel me? So I understand now we have to teach our kids about sex education. But when I was growing up, it wasn't no sex education. It was looking under the door, seeing what your brother in there doing and things of that nature. So I learned just, by trial and error.
Wow. Anybody else got similar stories? Because my mom and my daddy never sat me down and told me this is what happens and this is what you do with it. Now they gave me some condoms. I remember my grandmother when I was 13 years old told my granddad to give me a big box of condoms. Said here, and I didn't know what to do with them. I was blowing them up like balloons. I ain't had no idea.
You had a good grandmother.
I ain't get nobody pregnant. I would say that when I was I did. I had a couple scares. Anyway, that's another story. Sorry.
No, I had no conversation. I was given a book called "Where Did I Come From?" and I was given a book, second book on my cycle. So I was taught about the hygienics of having your menstrual every month and all that kind of stuff. So it was more of a, the education behind it, but there was no real conversation about what guys will say, what they'll do, what, how your body feels. And you may want to explore certain things, but there was none of that.
I think it's different between men and women though, Sadia. With men, I think it's different. And women, I think my mother taught my sisters and them what was going on. But far as men, little boys, in my household, nah.
Right. But in a lot of households, you hear out of Black households, you hear a mother tell a daughter or even a father tell a daughter, you better not come home pregnant. But then they tell them what not to do to make sure they don't come home pregnant. Right. And that's something that might be missing, Niche.
No, I didn't get a talk. I didn't get a book. I just got pregnant. So that was all. So yeah, it was. I was in college though. So, but yeah, I never had to talk. My mama just figured I knew better because we did grow up in a church. So she knew that I knew what I wasn't supposed to do. But no, she never sat me down. What'd you say?
Those are the worst ones. The church.
That's what I was about to say. The church kids are the worst kids.
She never gave me the talk though, so I guess she assumed that I would just do right.
Yeah.
Is that an issue that we have in the Black community? I mean, back in the day, maybe not as much now, but back in the day where our parents didn't teach us as much about sex or even relationships and just assumed that we should just know based on what they went through.
I think they assumed if they didn't tell us anything, we would know.
That's right.
And that would be the prevention. Well, if I don't say anything, then they won't know anything. But it's like, okay, now we're Gen X, as we, just talking about Mike, Donny, and myself. So we found out about stuff on the street.
That's right.
Friends or cable or, whatever it was. So it was around us. And it's even worse now because kids just pull up anything. They got all these devices and all this stuff we didn't have. So they're more exposed than we were with no information, no education.
So my dad was kind of he was a womanizer. And so I didn't have a talk about sex in the way like sit down. I had several talks about them. And it was in the passenger seat of a car where, there'd be a woman there and he'd be like, look at her, at a very young age. So so sex was just, and he would have Playboys and things like that. So I knew what sex was before kids didn't know that Santa Claus, didn't exist. So
wow. How did that affect you when it came to sexuality with women and safe sex and treating women right and things like that, and not overly sexualizing them?
It didn't help me. Yeah, it didn't help me. It took a lot of work for me to that. It's something I still work through. As far as like, even when I lost virginity, my virginity, it was, my dad he took me to so I let him know that it was happening. I was 16, and I said I have a girlfriend, and he was having conversations about me, like, let me know when it's going to happen. And so he took me to the 7-Eleven, got condoms, I went to my girlfriend's house, my first girlfriend at the time. It was 4 a.m. Snuck in the window, came back out. After did whatever, didn't know what I was doing, and then
2 minutes later.
Exactly. And then text my dad, said, hey, come pick me up. And so sex was a weird, part of the relationship, as far as how open he was, and in a way that wasn't really healthy.
You were 14?
16.
16, and your dad dropped you off at 4 a.m. over your girl. How old was your girlfriend?
She was 16. Yeah.
Her parents like, okay, all right.
Right. That's like, where were her parents at? They were
4 a.m. in the morning, and your dad dropped you off. Like sometimes we're talking about life lessons that our parents teach us, and sometimes to teach us something, like you said, that can harm us for a long time. Donny, you talked about how your uncles and seeing certain things, how that influenced you. And I talked about this one time where I was 9 years old and I was in a shot house, meaning an alcohol house, an illegal alcohol house with my dad. And there was a woman that was in there. She came over and started rubbing my legs. And I was like, no, a guy came over and started rubbing my legs. And the guy was rubbing my legs, and I'm, 9 years old. My dad said, boy, don't ever let a man rub your legs. Don't let that boy rub your legs. So I told him to get off me. And then a woman came over right after and said, he does have some nice legs. She started rubbing my legs. And I did the same thing to her. And he said, no, when it's a woman, you let the woman do whatever she wants to you. You got to please the woman. I'm 9 years old. So that's a lesson, the first lesson I learned about sexuality, and really the only lesson I learned from him about sexuality. And it had an effect on me for a long period of time. That's why I was asking about what kind of effect it had, because I always felt like if a woman wanted to have sex with me, that I had to please her, because if I didn't, then I wasn't being the man that my dad wanted me to be.
I picked up quickly that's what, so I love my dad, right? He was my hero. And I'm kind of an emotional kid, and I read things pretty easily or quickly. And so I would see what's he given his attention to, and it was someone that was walking by. So then women became kind of a power over me, that like that's the goal. And so even in our conversations with like making it, at that time I thought I wanted to go to the NBA. That was part of the discussion. Like, if you go, it's part of the success is getting all the women. And so it was ingrained in me for a long time, and it took me a while to just weed through that and kind of change the way I looked at what being happy and what life is about.
But I don't want Pierce to think that's uncommon, because at the end of the day, when I was young, in the neighborhood, you had a girlfriend at 14, 13 years old, and you used to go over her house, sit on the couch and watch TV and wait for mama to go to sleep so you could start doing other little nasty things. Right. So today, when I grew up, that was like common. If you wasn't getting none, because it was all about sports and sex in the hood. Well, that's my little girlfriend right there. So what do you do with a little girlfriend? You hump and do little nasty things. You feel what I'm saying? So it's not uncommon. It's not weird what he's talking about. That those things do happen.
Right. So my dad was kind of raised in the hood, and he married a good girl. My mom was a religious woman, and her family was strict. And so there was this duality between, my mom's side and this good side, and this bad, exposure and influence that I've just been kind of, dealing with. So, yeah. But yeah, as you said, it's something in the hood. I think that was my dad's environment growing up.
And he said that he worked for Death Row too. So, he was getting, oh my goodness.
A bodyguard for Death Row. We're going to get into that a little bit, because I want to talk about the influences that the adults have in your life. But as far as relationships are concerned, fellas, I gotta ask y'all first, and then women, I want y'all to chime in on this, ladies. What were you taught about how to treat a lady, how to treat a woman like a queen, to respect them. What kind of lessons did you get when it came to that, if any at all? Now we learned you got condoms and all that stuff, but I'm talking about treating them like a woman.
As a kid?
As a kid, growing up as a teenager, from your mom, your dad, anybody?
Well, I didn't have no dad, so it's about being a player. Period. Have as many women as you can possibly get and just be a player. You know what I mean? That's what I seen. That's what the pimp players and hustlers, that's what I seen. You know what I'm saying? Then later on, you know what I mean, I learned how to treat a woman. But you know, in the hood, man, it's sometimes it's crazy how what influences that people put on you. You know what I mean? You be like, oh my God. And you find out you're doing it wrong. Like, I am supposed to be doing that. You get what I'm saying? So I don't condone it, but you know what I mean? It's just like when you see things, you be like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be when you don't have a father. And sometimes you can have a father like Pierce. You know?
It's how you were raised. I understand that. And ladies, in the opposite, because I got 3 daughters, and 2 of my daughters obviously grew up with me as biological, and I treat them the way I want a man to treat them. So I take them on dates, whatnot. Did your dads do that for you, to try and teach you at an early age of how a woman should be treated?
Well, my parents separated for about 5 years and then got back together. So when my father and mom reunited, then it was my dad was teaching me, don't let a man just honk the horn and you come running out. They need to come to the door, meet your parents and say who they are, and they're coming to see you, and X, Y, and Z. And he also taught me not to open my car door. If you're in the car, he needs to come around and open your door. And if he doesn't open the door, you just sit there.
Still got to be a gentleman. Niche, what about you?
But Mike, at the end of the day, what Sadia is saying, I knew that as a kid. You get what I'm saying? I knew how to, open a door, take off.
Who'd you learn it from though?
Huh?
Who'd you learn it from?
My uncles, you know what I mean? They told me that. And, at the end of the day, my mother, like, no, you open the door, you do this for, you take them out, you do the right things, and you open, when you go in people's house, take your hat off, you say, hi, Miss such and such, hi, Mr. such and such, you never call nobody by their first name, you know what I mean? So until they give you permission to. So I knew the values of how to treat a woman, but it was still like being a player. You get what I'm saying?
You could manipulate it.
Yes.
You get what you
want. Yeah, it's that pimp mentality, but that's like a lot of black men, a lot of black boys were raised the same way in the hood. Like the more women that you got, it became like a masculinity kind of complex. It made you more of a man. That's the way we were raised. We understand it's different now. But it wasn't just about the romantic stuff. It's also about your friends. I'm pretty sure you had friends, Donny, Pierce, all y'all, that your mom and your dad, like, you shouldn't be hanging around that person, but you couldn't see it at that time.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. And I wanted to go back to what was just said too about, what I picked up from relationships. But one thing I learned from my dad just going after women was, one, shoot your shot. And that lesson, it actually was beneficial to me in not just relationships, but also business. Because then I wasn't afraid of rejection. Like my dad would go after, he'd ask Beyonce for her number. He did, no one was out of the league kind of thing, And I think a lot of people, so when I would go up to, women when I was single and just ask for their number, they were like, guys don't do that. And I thought that's what they did, so because, that's what my dad did. But so that's one thing. But when it came to what I learned about how to be a man, it wasn't until I was 26 and my uncle, Bill Duffy, who's my biggest mentor, he's one of the biggest black sports agents. I asked him, hey, when did you stop, cheating? That's how I asked him, because that's what I thought men did. He goes, I've never cheated on my wife. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I've never cheated on her. Been with her for 30 years. So that really changed how I viewed relationships. That's when I learned.
Wow. Yeah, man, that's rare. I got to take another break. I'm going to let Niche get her thought in after the break. We're going to talk about some of the forms of discipline that your moms and your dad taught you and how that had an effect. Because Donny, you talked about this before, and I think it's one of the reasons we're having this show is about spankings and what it did to you growing up and what it made you growing up as a child. We're going to get into that. You're chopping it up with Mike and Donny on Father Soul. Stick around. You're chopping it up with Mike and Donny. We're talking to Sadia, Niche, and Pierce, talking about being raised and the lessons that we learned in life. And Donny, you were saying in the break that you like being told no.
Yeah, I like rejection because it builds character. You know what I mean? So anything, if a person, if a woman tells me no, or somebody tells me no, something about business, I'm gonna keep on shooting my shot. Like Niche said, well, I don't like a bugaboo. No, like I said, it's not being a bugaboo. This is 100-yard. This is a marathon. It's not a 100-yard dash. I mean, you know what I mean? So I might not see you next week, but I might see you 5 months after, and then you know what I mean, and then we might cross that path again, and I'm gonna keep on shooting my shot until I get you. You know what I mean? So I just feel like men as a whole, we always say, "Oh, the woman is the prize." Men gotta understand they the prize too. You get what I'm saying? A lot of men think they're not the prize, and you gotta look at yourself. You know what I mean? As being that king if she's that queen. Some men like, "Oh, I won the prize." No, she won the prize too, because you gotta look at yourself as being that king.
Okay, Donny.
What?
Okay,
Say that. Say that. What'd you say, Donny? I'm the prize.
Yeah, I'm the prize too.
I got the bow on this body, damn it. What? Unwrap me.
I get it. Okay, Donny, thank you.
But when did you learn that lesson? Did you learn that from your somebody that was older about accepting no's and knowing that all no's aren't bad? And to have that perseverance.
I'm not gonna call my nickname when I was a kid because that's for my kid. But my uncle used to call me the mighty D. It's a nickname, but I use that because anything ever happened to me, I say, "Yo, what's this?" You know, what I mean, it's a nickname. I don't like everybody to know, but my uncles used to call me mighty. Like they always used to pump me up as being a king and this and that, and don't let nobody, you know what I mean, put you down that nature. I didn't have a father, but I had some strong uncles that let them know, like, you a king, you a prize too, man. So just don't give it all to a woman if she's not giving. It's not being reciprocal. You know what I'm saying? Reciprocated, whatever, however you say it. But I just feel that way. You know, it's not being cocky. It's not being cocky. It's just being having pride for yourself and knowing who you are as a man and what you table.
That's important in relationships and in life, to have somebody to continue, especially your parents, to raise you in a manner to make you feel your value and your self-worth. Right, Sadia?
I think so. I mean, and going back to what Donny was saying about the man being the king, I think that in my experience, a lot of the guys have more options. You know, especially if it's a Black man who is successful, doesn't have a whole bunch of baby mamas, you know, is doing his thing, homeowner, property owner, whatever that is, where he looks good on paper, he has a lot of women to choose from. And they typically do not then chase anymore because it's being thrown at them. Because they do have that mentality that, well, you know, I'm the catch, so I don't need to put forth that energy and that effort.
Yeah, well, if you like that, like Donny, you ain't got to throw your line into the water. The fish are jumping out the water onto the bank anyway. You know what I mean?
I want to say something what Sadia just said. Sadia, I don't like a lot of women. I like the right woman. You know what I'm saying? When a lot of women try to get at you, you know what I'm saying? I don't like a woman really getting at me. I like to get at them because I like what I like. So I feel like, you know what I mean, when you feel like you use your power to get women, you's a sucker ass nigga to me. You know what I'm saying? Because you shouldn't have to use your power to get women. You should be who you are, and you know what I mean, and be that cool or that cool individual or that confident individual to get your lady, not use your power. That's whack.
So Donny, I agree with you. I think, yeah, we all need to step into our kingdom, but I think we have to do the work to find the crown. That's my experience. You know, I think if you just think you're a king, it's kind of like in playing sports. It's like showing up like you won because you have the jersey on. Like,
totally agree with you.
I think you still have to. I had to learn how to be a king, and I'm still learning. You know, I've messed up so many times in my relationships, and I have a great, you know, girlfriend that I'm learning how to work through things and communicate and be intimate. You know, I had to learn. I had to do on the job training with that. You know, I didn't have those tools, you know, ingrained in me. So figuring that out.
Can I say this? I feel like when you stop feeling like when you stop feeling that you're not a work in progress, you already lost. Because we can learn every day. We can learn something. We can learn how to be better every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when you stop thinking, oh, I know everything, dude, you lost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The real kings are the ones that continuously learn, always want to learn, always trying to get better. What we was talking about before the break, discipline. And how did your parents discipline you? Because my mom didn't believe in sparing the rod. My mom, whatever she found, her hand, wiffle ball bat, a broom, anything that was close by that didn't kill me, she was gonna use to whip my ass. Anybody else get their ass whipped when they was younger?
No. I was
No,
actually
no.
a pretty good kid, actually. So I
Oh,
never.
because you was in the
But
church.
Yeah.
I
Praise
only got
God.
spanked in Sunday school though. That's the only time I ever got probably spanked for playing in Sunday school. But I never got a whooping or with a belt or anything like that. So
But Donny, you said it had an effect on you, right?
Denise, I used to get beat like a dog. You know what
no,
I'm
but
saying?
you probably were bad as hell, Donnie.
But see, here's the thing. I disagree. I disagree because I don't feel like you need to take a stitching cord and whoop you and take switches and whoop
That's
the
true.
hell out of you. You know what I'm saying? If I got kids that's are managed. I don't believe in telling kids they're bad because when they was telling me I was bad, I tried to get badder and badder. You get what I'm saying? So I don't believe in telling kids they're bad because kids are not bad. They're just looking for discipline. They're crying out for something. So at the end of the day, I don't feel like I was bad. I didn't deserve to get my ass beat the way I got beat. I don't think my mother knew any better. But at the end of the day, I don't whoop my kids to that day because Mike asked me why not, because that made me very violent and I became a very violent individual growing up from getting whooped like that. Because when my mother used to whoop me, I used to go outside and take it out on people. You know, I started doing drive-by when I was 13 years old. You know what I'm saying? So that had a lot to do with it.
I'm glad you're sharing that. That's really important that you're sharing that. The fact that you said that people label you, especially your parents or somebody, an adult, calling you bad, because after a while, you're going to become and believe what you hear them call you. So I'm glad you said that.
Kind of bad, Donnie. I'm sorry. That drive-by was kind of bad, Donnie. I'm sorry.
No. It's all good because we need to learn. You know what I'm saying? We need to learn because that's why, niece, that's why I don't hit my kids. I never whoop my kids or nothing. You know what I'm saying?
I don't whip my son either, and I have no problems out of him. He's 12. He'll be 13 in March. I've never whipped him, and I've never had a problem with him doing anything I need him to do. So I don't believe in whipping.
Well, kids, you got to find the right spot to hit. No, I'm just playing. You don't do that. So yeah.
My brother got whipped though. My brother got whipped.
Yeah, but I don't whip my kid. I tried not to. I did. My daughter's in there. She probably listening right now. She's like, yeah, you just beat my ass. But sometimes I would, give her a spanking or whatnot. But I didn't get her spankings the way I used to get spankings when I was a kid. But I found out what you do for kids these days, you take things away from them. You start taking away their phone, you take away their freedom. That's the worst thing. They'd rather take a whipping than you take away their freedom or their access to devices.
Yeah, because the whipping is over. You know, so they go back to doing whatever they were doing. And when I was growing up, I was always on punishment. It was taking away the phone, taking away the boom box back in the day, or the TV. I think my whole high school years, I couldn't talk on the phone during the week. Monday through Friday, no phone. Once Friday hit after school, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I could talk because that's what I love to do. And I wasn't doing my work. I was always on the phone. So it's like, okay, we can take that away. So but that was the punishment.
But when you get restricted like that, that's when you want it more, and that's when Pierce dad dropped you off at drop him off at your house at 4:00 in the morning. You sneaking him through your bedroom door and your window.
See, I was upstairs. You have to climb.
So I think both my parents spanked me, but my dad used to make it an event. He used to. So he had the big speakers. And he would play James Brown, Papa Don't Take No Mess, and he'd turn it all the way up. Papa Don't Take No, and he'd come in dancing, and I'd look around, I'm trying to laugh it off, like hoping he'd chill, and he'd be like, turn around, and he'd just be dancing, and 2 minutes into the song, just right when James Brown is screaming, like, psh, and
wow, abuse, poor thing.
Damn, you probably hate James Brown to this day.
Yeah. No, I love. Actually, it's funny. I love James Brown, and it's funny that you all are saying that because I've thought about this when I have kids. I thought that I would whoop my kids, but then as I thought about it more, it's like the only reason I wanted to do it is because I got it. It had nothing to do with anything else. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, it really is about having these conversations, and like what you parents are saying is, you know, taking things away. So it's made me reevaluate, you know, what I would do as a parent.
And let me say this, Pierce, and reiterate what Sadia said. If my mother knew that when she used to give me a punch, she used to hurt me even more. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't go outside and play. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need to do with our kid. When we take away things, that's a harder punishment than getting your butt whooped. When she used to whoop my butt and I can go outside the next day or that day, man, I was cool. You know what I'm saying? But when I couldn't go outside, that used to hurt me even more. But she didn't know that. So I'm just telling you, Pierce.
And it's also important, like a lot of times your parents back in the day would give you a spanking and not explain the reason why they're whipping you. So you feel the pain, but you're not getting the lesson behind it. So you know you did this wrong, and this is what's going to be the outcome from it. But what did you learn from it? And I think that's really the most important part.
My mom used to whoop me talking to me while she whooping me. I used to know what I was getting whooped for. Boy, you did that, I'm gonna whoop your butt for talking back to that teacher. You know what I'm saying? So I know what I was getting whooped for.
Oh, you knew what it was for, but did you learn the lesson? Like, okay, this is the reason why you should. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the reason why you shouldn't do this, and hey, you there to learn and all that type of stuff. So yeah, absolutely. My mama was that type of person too, where every syllable came with an ass whipping. You don't do that. Every word when you was gonna get hit. All right, I'm gonna take another break. When we come back, I'm gonna talk about some of the things I wish we would have learned, like especially money in the Black. We need to start teaching our kids more about investing and things like that. I know that's huge in your wheelhouse there, Donnie. So we'll talk about that coming up next on the Mike and Donnie Show. Chopping it up with Mike and Donnie. What your mama didn't tell you, what your daddy didn't tell you, and what they should have told you on the Mike and Donnie Show. Chopping up with Mike and Donnie, Mike Hill, Donnie Harrell, Pierce, Niche, and Sadia hanging out with us. I wish my parents and my mom taught me a lot of things. I learned a lot from my stepdad on what not to do by looking at his actions. But I wish they both would have sat me down, and wish somebody would have taught them more about money and what to do with money and how to invest money to build generational wealth for the Black community. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat.
Yeah, we are. We have to learn how to start teaching our kids at an early age. Because when I got busted in elementary school and junior high school, the little white kids, they had credit cards. You know what I'm saying? And we were like, yo, what is that? You know what I mean? They take us to 7-Eleven around the corner and buy us some stuff. But so we have to teach our kids, you know what I mean, about having credit and all that stuff at an early age, because you know what I mean, if we don't teach them that, who will?
Sadia?
I was overdrawn on my first checking account when I went to Clark Atlanta University, and my mother is excellent at bookkeeping. She pays all the bills in the house, very organized. I got that from her, but there was no actual sit down where this is how you budget. This is how you keep track of what you're spending so that you're not overspending. Because I was going to the ATM like, there was just unlimited funds in there. And I was bouncing checks. So, once that happened, or thankfully, I should say, it happened early enough to where I was able to make the correction. But I wasn't taught about stocks or credit score or anything like that. That just kind of came along the way.
And hopefully we're making up for that now, Niche. Hopefully we're starting to teach our children about investing in the right things and stocks and credit score and how important that is.
Well, yes, I'm educating myself so that I'm able to do that, because like I say, nobody has ever really, taught me that. And I'm just now at 36 getting to the point where I am investing and trying to get in stock. So I have to kind of figure that out. And then of course I'll be able to kind of let him know. But no, nobody told me nothing. My mama told me whatever, if I can get it, if they're going to give it to me, get it. And that was with car loan, overdraft. When they gave me that bank account, I took that $500 out right away. And I still can't get a bank account with Bank of America to this day because of some stuff I did back in college. But you know better, you do better. So
right. And it ain't just getting a savings account. A lot of, because they'll tell you they'll open up a savings account, put money in the savings account, but a savings account ain't nothing. I mean, you giving the money, the bank money. Well, you got to invest in those stocks and buy real estate. Donnie always talk about real estate. A lot of times we learn, especially because where we grow up, that we go and buy cars, we buy the flashy items instead of buying real estate, which is going to make us money down the line.
Yeah. I feel like banks are nothing. That's all they do is take your fees. You know what I'm saying? So you need to know how to put your money in other things besides banks. You know what I mean? Like Mike was talking about real estate and other things like stocks, bonds, or even, you know what I mean, bury your money sometime. You know, because if they're not going to give you no interest on it, you know what I'm saying? Why put it in there? Because it's in accounts. Sometimes you don't get no interest on your money, especially when it's in a checking account. It's just for them to take fees out.
Yeah. You know you're going to have people in your backyard digging up the yard now. You know.
I talk about that a lot on my podcast, where I'm trying to teach women how to not just budget and save, but if they want to buy a home as a single person, as a lot of times we're conditioned to believe that we need a husband. So if that's a goal of yours, it's something that you can do, but you have to have your credit on point. You have to be paying your bills on time. You know, how to get around those fees. You can open an account with a credit union versus the regular bank and avoid some fees. You don't get an escrow account for your property taxes. You can pay your own property taxes because the bank is charging you money every month for that escrow account. So those are the type of things that the younger we know them, the better off we'd be. And we don't spend a lot of money, like Donny said, in giving the bank fees and paying their kids' college tuitions.
And here's another thing I want to teach all Black people: stop living above your means when you're not making that much money to live that way. You know what I mean? And that's how Black people, we go broke because we want this, we want that. You get a job making $100,000, you start having $300,000 worth of bills. Matter of fact, you're bankrupt then. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, people have to stop living above their means.
For me,
stop flossing and fronting.
Yeah.
My mom was, so she's the lead technician in the cardiology department. And so she has a really great job, makes good money, and she is a phenomenal budgeter, really is a strong Black woman. And she was able to manage, the household and all that. And I just wish that I was a little bit more of a fly on the wall or over her shoulder to see how she did it. I knew it was always done, but I didn't learn. Like my mom had great credit, it's always over, always in like the 800s, but I didn't know how it was all working. And so that's one of the things I wish. Another thing is that, but while she also worried a lot about money too. And she didn't know how to invest in something. So she would always play the lottery, so she played the lottery every day and kind of wanted, a savior, right? Something. And so I do wish as a family, we would have gotten more into investment because I think, she's very smart. She'd be good at that. And that's what I do now. But that was one of the things I wish was learning how to budget and seeing how she, pulled everything off.
Well, those are some of the things we want to taught as kids that we're passing along to the next generation. Hopefully is making the future better for all of us, especially in the Black community. I got to take my final break.
Hey, Mike, I want to tell you a story before we do this break, right? I was doing a deal with DreamWorks, right? And I told my lawyer, I said, well, tell them don't give me no money. Let that penny double every day for 30 days. And so when they did the math, they was like, when they came back 2 days, like, hell no. I want y'all to think about that. Do the math on that.
That's good advice. Yeah, some say bet on yourself, man. Do that. Do it the way. Invest in yourself instead of taking what they want to give you. I understand you loud and clear. Final break. We'll come back to wrap up the show on Chopping Up with Mike and Donny. Stick around. Back Chopping Up with Mike and Donny, wrapping up the show, talking about what parents taught us. I guarantee everybody on this panel, their parents taught them, if you're Black, you got to work twice as hard to get half the credit. That is a lesson I think all of us got. Is that good advice today?
Yes.
It's still true today, unfortunately, especially in corporate America, where I am. You definitely see the differences when you have the same position as someone who is white and they're promoted, they're given different little opportunities for promotion, and you just become the corporate maid.
And it's sad that you still go in the 2021 and you still feel that way, but hopefully with everything that's coming out and people revealing themselves now, people are starting to give us the credit that we deserve to have a long time ago.
I think some people are born hustlers, Mike. You get what I'm saying? because I was out cutting grass and doing all at an early age. Some people just get out there and they just doers, and some people have to be taught that. But some people are just out there, just like really just have it in them.
Yeah.
Cutting grass and doing drive-bys.
You see how you can't tell some. You see how you say can't tell somebody some shit, Mike. You see how
he shared his life with you, niche. See here, look at you, throwing stuff in his face. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate your time, Pierce, Niche, Sadir. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your insight and helping us out with the show tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
For having us.
Donny.
I'm gonna get Niche.
Niche gonna come over to your house and start digging in your yard looking for that buried money that you got. That's
Right.
Chi-town.
I took notes.
It was fun having you on the show.
Yes,
We had a
thank
good
y'all for
time.
having me. Always a good time over here.